Hi, welcome everyone for the lecture 8, which is of earthquake load analysis of the subject wind and seismic analysis, in which we will be discussing about the when the earthquake load acts on a building, then how it will be distributed amongst the all floor levels or different lateral load resisting elements. So in this lecture I will be discussing about this, and this is the topics from the subject wind and seismic analysis. So the outline of module on earthquake load analysis is the first is the introduction part, how the earthquake load will be how the earthquake load will be acting on a building structures, and how it will be distributed amongst the different elements of the structures. What are the different type of analysis procedures are available to find out the earthquake load on different load resisting elements, and what are the limitations of equivalent static load method. Equivalent static load method is a part of different type of analysis procedure, which I will be discussing in next slide. So and in this lecture I will be discussing about the equivalent static load method and the steps involved for these methods, and lastly the steps to be involved for equivalent static load analysis methods. So the first one is the introduction part. Since the earthquake forces are random in nature and unpredictable, so the static and dynamic analysis of structure have become the primary concern of the civil engineer. So when the earthquake forces or earthquake load are act on a building structure that are the random in nature and that are unpredictable. So as a civil engineer, the primary concern to design such type of structure is that static or a dynamic analysis has to be performed before going for a designing of a structures. And the main parameter of seismic analysis of structures are the load carrying capacity of a different elements or members, and ductility of the structures, and the different stiffnesses of the load carrying members, damping and mass. So these are the main parameters which have to be considered while designing of a structure, that what are the load carrying capacity of the different elements, their ductility, their stiffness and damping and mass. And IS Indian Standard 1893/2002 is used to carry out the seismic analysis of multi-story building. This code is a reference code which have to be used while analyzing the structures for earthquake load analysis. Earthquake lateral force analysis, in which the building as a whole, the design lateral force is computed for the building as a whole firstly. So in starting, design lateral force is to be calculated for a building as a whole building. We can calculate the design lateral force. Then it will be distributed along the height of the building, and after that these lateral forces at each floor are distributed to an individual lateral load resisting element. So first we will calculate for the whole building, then it will be distributed to the height of the building, along the height of the building, and then it will be distributed to the different floor levels, and after that from floor 2 it will be distributed amongst the different lateral load resisting elements. So what are the different analysis procedures are available? So one is a linear static analysis, second one is the non-linear static analysis. So the difference between linear and non-linear static analysis is that in the linear static analysis, the load and deformation behavior of the structure is in the linear limit, or it's a straight line. And in linear static analysis, the stiffness matrix are constant throughout the analysis, while in non-linear static analysis, the load and deformation behavior of the structures are non-linear in nature. This is either due to geometrically non-linearity or either due to material non-linearity. So these are not in a linear manner. And in non-linear static analysis, the stiffness matrices are not constant throughout the analysis. So these are the main difference between the linear static and non-linear static analysis. Third one is the linear dynamic analysis and linear non-linear dynamic analysis. So the difference between the static and dynamic analysis, the dynamic analysis is a function of a time. In dynamic analysis, it is considering that the excitations or a vibration will be generated within a short duration of a time. If this will happen, then dynamic analysis will be preferred. So these are the four type of different analysis procedure, out of which I will be discussing linear static analysis in this particular slide or a lecture. So linear static analysis, it is also known as equivalent static load method, and it is restricted to single mode of vibration or single degree of freedom system of the structures. So what are the assumptions while going for analysis using equivalent static lateral force analysis? So it is assuming that the structures are each rigid. So every joint of the structural member is rigid joint, and it is assuming that the perfect fixity between the structure and foundation. It means that the end joints or end conditions of the structures are fixed instead of pin joint. It will be considered as a fixed end conditions of the structures. Third one is that during ground motion, every point on the structure experiencing the same acceleration. It means while earthquake is acting on a building structure, then each and every point of the building structure is experiencing the same amount of accelerations. So these are the assumption, and it dominate the effect of earthquake is equivalent to horizontal force of varying magnitude over the height. So it is considering that the earthquake is equivalent to a horizontal force of varying magnitude over the height. So, and last one is the approximate determines the total horizontal force on the structure. It determines the total horizontal force on the structure or a base shear that I will be discussing in the next slides while going for steps to be involved for analysis of structure using equivalent static and lateral force analysis. What are the limitations of equivalent static lateral force analysis? So one is it uses the empirical relationship to specify dynamic inertial force as a static force. It is considering or it is specifying the dynamic inertial force as a static. It is considering that dynamic inertial force as a static forces. Okay, and second one is the empirical formulas do not explicitly account for the dynamic characteristics of a particular structure being designed or analyzed. So as the first point suggests that the linear empirical formulas are specifying dynamic inertial forces as a static forces. So these empirical formulas are not account the dynamic behavior of the structure. It is only for static behavior of the structures. Third one is these formulas were developed for approximately representing dynamic behavior of regular structures. So these empirical formulas were developed for the approximately, these are the approximately representing dynamic behavior of the structures, regular structures. And last one is these formulas were not applicable to the structure which are irregular in shape. Okay, so these are the four limitations of the equivalent static force analysis methods. And now, what are the steps to be involved while going for analysis using equivalent static load method? So step number one is the determination of, first we will determine the horizontal seismic coefficient, which is given at page number 14 of clause 6.4.2. AH is given by ZISA over 2 RG. So AH is the horizontal seismic coefficient, Z is the zonal factor, I is the importance factor, R is the response reduction factor, and SA by G is the average response acceleration coefficient. So as the whole country or India is dividing into 4 zones, which is zone 2, 3, 4 and 5 based on the earthquake intensity at particular regions. Okay, so this code has specifying the particular regions on the basis of earthquake intensity into 4 zones. So if you are constructing a building in a city, either Gujarat or Chandigarh, maybe Chandigarh, so these are the specifying into a different zones, and for different zones the value of Z is different. If the intensity of earthquake is high in particular region or particular zone, then the value of zonal factor Z will be high. I is the importance factor, which depends upon the building types. If the structure is having a lot of importance, such as if we are constructing a educational building or a educational building or a malls or hospitals, the building which are having a more number of people gathering are considering an important building, and in which the value of importance factor is more in compared with the residential building. So the importance factor is depending upon the building type, and which is given in table number 6 page number 18. So what type of building you are constructing, for that the value of importance factor will be different. R is the response reduction factor, which is mentioned in table number 7 and page number 23. The value of R is depending upon the what type of structures you are constructing. Suppose if you are constructing ordinary moment resisting frame, which OMR, if you are constructing a residential building, or intensity of earthquake at that particular region is less, or so that if you are considering that point of view, or you constructing the OMRF, ordinary moment resisting frame, the value of R will be different. And if the building is constructing in a high earthquake intensity region, or and the building type will be a special moment resisting frame will be adopted, then the value of R response reduction factor will be more. So the value of response reduction factor will be depending upon the type of structure, either it is a ordinary moment resisting frame or a special moment resisting frame. SA by G, average response acceleration coefficient, which is given on page number 16, is depending upon the fundamental natural period of a vibration or a soil type. So on which soil you are constructing your foundation of the building, either if it is a soft soil, medium soil, or a hard strata. So SA by G will be depending upon the two factors: soil conditions of the particular region, or fundamental natural period of vibrations. That will be discussed in slide number 2. Step number 2 is determination of fundamental natural period of vibration, which is depending upon the what type of moment resisting frame you are constructing, is without infill panel or with infill panel. If you are constructing moment resisting frame without infill panel, then the value of TA will be 0.075 h to the power 0.75 for a RC frame building, and for a steel frame building 0.085 h to the power 0.75, which is also mentioned in page number 24. Here h is the height of the building in meters, and if the moment resisting frame with infill panel, then its value is given by TA equal to 0.09 h by under root of d. Here, sorry, it's a mistake. Here this is a under root of d, root of d. So in clause number, it is mentioned at clause number 7.6.2 at page number 24, and d is the base dimension of building at plinth level in meter. If you are considering, if the vibrations or excitations are considering in a x direction, then the d will be taken as dx, and if we are considering the excitation in both the directions, then two value of TA will be determined, that is Ti in the x direction or Ti in the y direction, then the D value will be dx or dy. So this is the step number 2. In step number 3, we will determine the design seismic base shear, which is given by Vb equal to Ah into W, where Ah is the horizontal seismic coefficient that will be determined from the step number 1, and W will be the total seismic weight of the building. So total seismic weight of the building is the summation of dead load of the building or a self weight of the building plus whatever the imposed load or live load given on a building, or whatever the imposed load or live load that are subjected to a building. So this design seismic base shear is given on page number 24 at clause 7.5.3. Seismic weight of the building. So seismic weight of each floor consisting of full dead load plus appropriate amount of imposed load. So what is the appropriate amount of imposed load, which is specified in this table? So if the imposed load on the floor level to be given up to 3 kN per meter square, then the 25% of that imposed load to be considered for calculating the total seismic weight of the building. And if it is given as above 3 kN per meter square, then 50% of that load to be considered for seismic weight of the building. So if it is given up to 3 kN per meter square, then 25% of that load to be considered at each floor level, and if it is above 3 kN per meter square, then 50% of that imposed load to be considered on each floor level, and no live load or imposed load to be considered on a roof. So it will always kept in mind, if the imposed load on a floor is up to 3, then 25% of that load, or if above 3, then 50% of that load, and on a roof level that there will be no live load or imposed load to be considered. Step number 4. Then after calculating the design base shear, the equivalent lateral load to be distributed amongst the different floor levels or amongst the different floor levels. So Qi will be given as Vb, which is the design base shear, Wi squared divided by summation of I is to n Wi square, clause number 7.7.1, page number 24. Wi is the seismic weight of the particular that floor at I level, and Hi is the height of the story, height of the floor I measured from the base, and n is the number of story in the building, is the number of level at which the mass are located. So from which we can distribute the equivalent lateral load to amongst the different floors. So these are the 4 steps that we have to follow while analyzing the building using the method equivalent static load analysis, and the numerical the codal provisions that codal steps I will be shown in next lectures. We will review the IS 1893 2002, and in that I'll show you that where these formulas or these steps are written or mentioned. So these are some references, and thank you.